clearly nested what all that HRC is doing, and clearly nested what we, as an agent, I'm part of the we, as an AG Corps doing as well. Here's why I bring it up, ladies and gentlemen. I know the initiatives are not new to you. There's many of them ongoing, everywhere from direct promotions. We're exploring career innovation program, talent-based career alignment, multiple venues of the command assessment program, which McGonagall and I will talk to in a moment, and that's continuing to grow, and you name it. And continue to ask the NDAA for approval to continue on with some other initiatives. This is the first time when I bring it up. Our Chief of Staff and the Secretary, the Sergeant Major of the Army, extremely serious about this stuff, as we should be, on these HR initiatives and the talent management task force. And please accept that change is happening. It has been for about 3 years. You well know with the talent management initiative started off with a graduation board about 5 years ago, with some different generals at that time standing in. Of course, we're gaining some momentum when our current chief was the G-1. Most recently, 2 CDs ago, a lot of initiatives through the NDA when General McGee had it. And of course, General Tom Drew, who's now at HRC. So this train is moving. It will not stop, and it shouldn't. It's just going that way. Here's why I bring it up. There will be a connection, there is already, with the talent management initiatives, and I won't name all of them. There were 30-something to 50-something. And what we do as professionals to help our leaders, help the Army. There's also a nexus with human resources command. So I'll explain one thing and take the pause I can turn to about money. Now, the vision that I have, a little more than a vision right now, that we're going to execute with Human Resources Command, nexus with the AG School, nexus with SSI and everybody else. This nexus I'm talking about is a connection of PF integration, which is important. So our institution will evolve to institutionalize everything that's coming out of the Talent Management Task Force efforts. It won't be quick. We actually have a strategy for over a year and a half. Now, I've talked to the chief about this. We have some formalization that we'll have to do through execution orders and a transition plan. But the vision, a lot of the initiatives that are working out of the Talent Management Task Force now, my words, will become part of the DNA of what Human Resources Command does, SSI does, the AG School does, for talent management for our Army. That includes, which is not part of the AG School, that includes the connection with the accessions enterprise, both for officers and soldiers coming in. So if you clump all that together, it's 2023 and beyond. You know, it has to go there, ladies and gentlemen, you know that. We will have technology coming in. We do. I'll talk to you later on. We have different soldiers than you and I may have come in 20 years ago. We have different officers coming in. We're fighting with COVID. And we are legitimately competing for talent. Bring it in, keep it in, train it, excite it, the whole thing. That is a complex challenge, which we anticipate it'll be a little harder when COVID starts to hopefully get behind us. Make sense so far? Here's my ask of you, and I'm going to turn it about on the talent management. Embrace the change. Embrace the change. Our boss, our chief, is planting seeds now, and a lot of them are growing for the future of the Army. Be beyond me and be beyond count. This change must be embraced. However, we'd like to hear from you as well. If it's not working, if it's bent or not broke, come say, hey sir, it's bent, this is how we can fix it. Well, if it's not working for the Army, we'll maintain the agility to get it done. Now, with human resources, I mentioned, HRC is not being replaced, it'll just evolve with everything else. So whether we have an Office of Innovation plugged in to HRC, or just continue to develop our talent managers, aka branch managers, or continue to develop the ATAP process, the accessions process, same for the non-commissioned officers, to keep pace with these initiatives. My thoughts, and I'll yield to you, I'd like to get your thoughts on it as well. This is going to take adaptation as well of the AG Corps, which will be ever more important. We go with this because we're the professional to get it done. Make sense so far? I hope. Everybody's frozen, maybe not. But we'd like to get your thoughts on it as well when we get to Q&A period. So long and short of it, rates should change. My ask of you is continue to be the great leaders that our Army's going to need. Please trust me on that one. The technical expertise you have, the depth, needs to remain. Probably even get better over time. The colonels and the sergeant majors, we have responsibility to ensure those going through Colonel Watley School are just that, experts, technical experts, because the Army needs it. Nobody else has. Trust me, I don't know what you know. I don't know what you know. So coupled with your technical expertise, a level of innovation, thought, strategic thinking, to help the big Army get there. Because this train has left the station, as it should be. 21st century focus is beyond, as it should be. That's the modernization and the whole thing. Okay, I can talk for 4 hours, but I'm not. I'll come back to you in a moment. I want to pause a moment and give you my battle, buddy. We'll do that behind the back lateral pass. You got it. We rehearse that all the time. Trust me. We'll get his thoughts.
Tom Major, I had a question.
Yes, sir.
For you. So you can repeat the question for me. So you sat in on the sessions with us. You sat in on the sessions with us this week, and you know the questions that were asked. And candidly, I'm not to put you on the spot. I was thinking as the G-1 Adjutant Brito was talking. Do you think, from your experience, what you witnessed this week, that nest with what he just talked about? Are we able to compliment and give him? You weren't there for the outbreaks, but were the right questions asked, and were we nested with basically what Adjutant Brito was talking about? Challenge management.
No, absolutely, sir. A couple of the panels that I had opportunity to sit in on, i.e., talking about some of the gaps that we have, being able to do our mission with large-scale combat operations, looking at how we're doing the talent management in the future. All of those, and it was great discussions in all of them, and I hopefully I can probably get a copy of those outreach to kind of see the sum of what each group was able to talk about. But one, this is probably one of the best AG weeks I've been a part of, because we were able to have those breakout sessions to get the individual thoughts from all the different areas of operation on how we can consolidate those efforts to make the Corps better. And the focus was on the future of the Corps and how we can mitigate the gaps and identify the gaps that we currently have right now. So in my opinion, sir, I think the breakout session nested very well with the intent of where the G1 is trying to take the AG Corps. In reference to what General Brito was talking about with talent management and a lot of the changes that we have and embracing the changes, some of those changes are happening right now. Case in point, this year, how we talent manage our command sergeant major population, we will execute the first brigade level sergeant major assessment program at Fort Knox. This will now be a formal process of how we select our command sergeant major, similar to how we do it for our officers who are going into command. Purpose of this under the big umbrella of how we better professionalize our NCO Corps, but also making sure that we get the right individuals in the right positions to influence the culture that the Army is trying to change as a whole. We've learned through the assessment process, although our board process is a very great process, there are very key data points that you can garner about an individual that we cannot get through our board process that is brought to life during the assessment process. So we thought that was vital to apply that to our non-commissioned officers as well, to ensure that we're giving our officer counterparts a battle buddy who also is of the character and has the ability to command as a good partner for that officer as well. In addition to implementing the brigade level SMAP, we are working to include a battalion level SMAP. But as you know, max throughput for the assessment program is about 450, and we're probably be talking about 1,500 sergeant majors we would have to push through that program. So the battalion level SMAP is going to look a little different because for every one position, we typically select about 3 sergeant majors to go to the assessment program to fill that one position. So it's going to be a hybrid in the future that we're planning to try to execute towards the end of fiscal year 2022. So more to follow in reference to the battalion level SMAC program in the future. Also, what we did this year, was we did a pilot for the Sergeant Major Evaluation Board. So typically, in order to go through the evaluation board, you have to have less than 27 years and 7 months time of service in the Army. This year, we allowed Sergeant Majors who had more than 27 years and 7 months to participate in the evaluation board. What we want to assess is, do we have the retention control points right for Sergeant Majors? Currently, right now, it's 30 years. And as we are in this war for talent and we're trying to figure out how to retain the best talent, we want to assess, is that 30-year mark the right way, and are we arbitrarily pushing good talent out of the Army too early? So in this pilot, if a sergeant major who normally wouldn't be eligible to compete is most qualified or high on the OML and selected to go through the SMAP process for brigade CSM, and then selected to be slated, we will offer that sergeant major an opportunity to extend their RCP so that they can serve in those brigade level positions. And then we will use those data points to go back and relook at the retention control policy to see the best way that we can keep the best talent in the Army for our sergeant majors. Because before we didn't have the evaluation board, we had a promotion board, and it was only used to produce the OML for promotions, and then we would take that OML and put it in the drawer, and we did nothing else with it. But now we found ways to use that OML to make other HR decisions with assignments, but also retention, to professionalize our NCO course. So that initiative is also taking place this year. In addition to the sergeant majors, we're also trying to look at how to get the best first sergeants in the positions as well. In the past, brigade CSMs would select their first sergeants, and they would normally limit it to either what HRC PCSs them or what they have in their brigade footprint. But with the first sergeant talent alignment assessment, this is a process that allows leaders to look across their entire installations to select the best first sergeants to serve within their organizations. We're executing a fourth pilot now. We expect soon, probably after about another pilot, to get a decision from senior leaders on whether or not to implement this full time in the Army in reference to making better first sergeants. Last two things I'll talk about, the evaluation board as a whole. A lot of angst about changing staff sergeant time and grade 48 months before they're eligible to become sergeant first classes. The big reason behind that is part of the SMA's big initiative of making better staff sergeants so that we can get after the counterproductive behaviors that exist within our squads. 48 months, although if you think about it, really is not a big change for soldiers, because normally they would get looked at in the primary zone, they would have 36 months time to grade, the list would come out. We didn't intend to promote them for 12 to 18 months after the list came out anyway, because 12 months was built in for them to get school qualified, and then we would start looking at the requirements to promote those individuals. So they were actually serving in those grades at 48 months already. So as the angst comes up about the 48 months time to grade, it's really not a big change. They just don't have the promotable status next to their name at 24 months as they were used to, which is the other reason why we took away the promotable status. Because when a soldier became promotable, they naturally went to go try to find a job in the next higher grade. Well, we really didn't want you to do that. We wanted you to stay in that grade to get that developmental time at that grade for those additional 18 to 24 months. And so this is going to help us better develop our non-commissioned officers so that we aren't throwing them into positions of higher grade earlier than what they need to be. Case in point, sergeant first class, if I'm promotable, first thing I want to do is go become proc as a first sergeant. And when I go as an E7 to that first sergeant position, now a staff sergeant has to come up and fill my position as sergeant first class, sergeant, so on and so forth. It creates a domino effect, and now we're putting soldiers in higher positions who haven't actually been trained or have the time to be developed and have the experience to serve in those positions. And the last thing I'll talk about with the talent management, as far as helping us develop our non-commissioned officers, is the corporal initiative that was released, which is a part of the Junior Leader Development Program. The reason why we went to the new corporal initiative program was, one, in the past you couldn't tell the difference between a specialist promotable who has been to school and a specialist promotable who has not been to school. So now when they're wearing a corporal rank, you know for a fact that they've been recommended for promotion by command and that they are school trained. The only thing that they're waiting on are requirements from the Army to be able to promote them. So you can actually start utilizing these individuals as non-commissioned officers now within your organization. This gives them more time to be developed and have the opportunity to get more experience, and then you can also give an optional NCOAR to individuals so that they can have feedback. So that development process as a non-commissioned officer starts earlier before they even start or become a sergeant or move on to the ranks of staff sergeant. So with that, I'll pause for any questions as I pause it back to, or hand it back to my boss.
And I won't hold it. On the, I don't want to look at the plot, so I'll pick it up a tad bit. Suppose, I guess, a recap or summary on the child management task force. Child management, it's not the task force. We, as staff principals with the chief, will help him with his vision, his thought, and where this is going. We, all being part of the same squad, will help the commanders execute. And that's our integration responsibility. Took a little risk over the last couple of days and sent them some friends of mine that happen to be in command positions. And asked them, what do you expect of your AG Corps and your HR professional? Which might be more helpful than me sitting up here pontificating to you, giving some thoughts. I'll share just a couple moments. And I ask you to put this in your rucksack as you continue your mission, both here in the schoolhouse, and whatever command you're representing. I see a couple from different places. Just a couple thoughts. It's not a formal task. You just put thoughts of the field. Some have been commanded multiple times, some out. Also ask non-commissioned officers as well. Three things. Hopefully I won't forget them. Be a technical expert. Very important. Which is going to try and say in a minute what I'm talking about. So be a technical expert. That'd be expected of you. Know your HR processes. Always make sure your team knows your HR processes. Whether it's SGL Live, lead forms, what have you. And for those who didn't grow up through the Corps, that'd be, we're big reliance on the HR professional to do just that. So be the technical expert. Okay? Also ask some of the feedback for more than one. Keep them straight on some of the process things, like processing evaluations on time, knowing how to do it through the new automation. Sounds simple, but if you multiply one bad report times 300, we have an issue. So, working and slating some of the human resource dynamics that take place in the respective commands. This is agnostic of being force comp trade up, it doesn't matter. The third one is take that technical expertise. This came quote from two commanders. I think I actually support it. Take that technical expertise and be able to expand it to strategic thinking. So think beyond the technical box a little bit. So that command or commander in our Army is interested, as they should be, talent management, forecasting, providing some stability where they can, going through the ATAP process, sending guys to respective PME. Want us to take the technical piece, help him or her in command, to include the non-commissioned officers, navigate these waters. If you take those three things, I'm taking responsibility with it, help the staff. I'm asking our professional AG Corps to help our Army do the same thing. If you pull all that together, by non-doctrinal term, complete nexus where this 21st century talent management for our Army is going, and connection to the accessions that you brought up earlier. Whether it's future officers coming in, definitely future soldiers coming in. Over the last 18 months, especially during this COVID, which no one really expected, we really benefited from unprecedented re-enlistment and retention. Unprecedented numbers of officers coming in. So it really helped maintain that strength. We have one more week, and we'll actually be over 486,000 for our active duty. Manage it to the seat, trust me. So good news story there. I don't know that it'll be the same next year. That's just one aspect of the accession. But to recap those three things I mentioned from the field, I have straight out force farm and reserve units. They have to need from us, really need from the expertise in front of me. Just those three things. Okay, make sense? I want to pull on one thread, technical one. I want you to hear from me on IPSEC. Okay, this is a major acquisition program. It's been going on for some time. Part of my core analogy here. Okay, Sergeant Major is a 10-meter yard line, the goal line on that side of the field. I'm the goal line on this side of the field. We're playing a football game. We have crossed the 50-yard line. We're at the 60, 70-ish. We're going to score. I'm not just color-coding this, trust me. You will be receiving some strategic messaging next week on the timeline associated with Release 3. There's been some issues, minor, because it's the major acquisition program. I want you to hear from my lips. And I shared this with the chief and others the other day. Here's the goodness in it. I'll quote one of the folks on the, I think it was Colonel Holmesworth, I believe, on live safety. Because of the, we have a better picture of the unknowns right now. Just like a new machine gun, new Humvee, as we went through, geeky said, as we went through the training, I know some of the warrants that have done this. As we went through the training in August, July and August, nipper and zipper, some severity defects came up that have to be fixed. It takes some hours to turn them down. And so the aerosol conditions checklist, the chief was about, the conditions weren't in the green due to limited user tests, which we're going on now, impacted release 3 times. So we will get it right for 3 main reasons. One, guidance received, checklist, next check to make sure the conditions are agreeing to do so. We're going to do that. We also don't want this to, pardon the example, be like the tuition assistance issue we had a couple months ago. The legacy goes down, the system's up. Oh yeah, we have a couple issues. We won't do that. We're funded for the legacy systems to stay well into 22. Those systems are still functioning. So that'll happen. Transition point. Most important, for release 4 and beyond, soldier pay. The success, green light go, in release 3 impacts soldier pay. We're going to get release 3 right, so we can go to release 4 and beyond. You don't worry about the contract. That's the building. What I need you to worry about is keep training. Keep reinforcing the positive message, and this will not go away. I want you to hear from me. For the T3 training we're doing, the leadership training we're doing, the institutional training in the schoolhouse that we will start doing, keep the momentum with that. We'll do the same in human resources plan across the Army. There's some good decisions. But I'm asking of you to support the narrative. Trust me, this will happen. Whether it's 1 month pickup, 2 months, don't you need to worry about that. Just keep going, being a positive message. Am I clear enough? Okay. Lost my train of thought, so I'm going to pause, let you take it. Grab my card. Mr. Porter, am I missing anything? No, sir. Yes, sir. Cool.
So, sir, if I can just kind of add to that, I would definitely like for everyone to, at this point in time, when it comes to your messaging on IFSA, to place your weapons on safe and remove the muzzle of the weapon from the front of your movement. We cannot get ahead of Army senior leaders on the messaging and what we're doing. There are stratcoms that are being worked in the building to help shape the narrative of this, because many of you have lived through the eras where, bad news was presented, and, trying to get back in front of that is a very challenging thing. So we ask for your support as you're working, making sure your action officers also understand the importance of staying aligned with Army strategic leaders. Because what you don't see is every day it's a constant fight in the building across the water with Capitol Hill on different authorities that we have. So the last thing we want are things that we're doing to blindside Congress. That's the level of impact these type of things have. So with social media, it's very easy for a narrative to escape and then us to basically lose control of the message. So that's the level of importance that we really need you to make sure that all of your action officers understand when it comes to messaging, not just if say anything in general. We have to make sure that we drive that narrative so that it's not confusing to the field and everybody understands the intent behind it.
I want to pause on those 2 topics. Any questions or concerns from the field on TMTF or talent management initiatives, and say anything so far? I'm going to shift topics.
All right, just rolling now. Save it to the end. Okay, I mentioned I was going to talk about the 2 task forces. The second one, the People's First Task Force, was more just for situational awareness. You read the Fort Hood history just like I did. I want to be one of them. I want to tell you right now, this is more than just Fort Hood. It's not about it. It's about the cohesiveness, dignity, respect, and programs that are best for our Army, all 3 components. The task force now, I started up in December 10th of last year. There were 3 of us. One of those 3 were me. Now we serve roles as tri-chair advisor, not tri-chair, first task force myself,
Sergeant Major.
Julie Guerrero was a G2 Sergeant Major, EAG2, and Mrs. Diane Rand at SES3, she's in charge here as well, also the deputy G2. We now have Brigadier General Chris Norton in the seat leading the task force and has about 40 military and civilian underneath him working out of Crystal City. Just a little bit of context. The blunt on the mission is really producing some good stuff in the Army, and we as HR professionals will be part of this in supporting the commanders. Clearly, of the 70 recommendations in the Board of Independent Review, I want you to strip the Board away from it. This is for the benefit of the Army. 31 of those 70 focus on sexual assault, sexual harassment. This is a major effort for our Chief and Secretary. We have a fusion concept that's going on very soon. The order's out. We look at policy. We look at manning. Sustain what has worked well, because there's been some great programs out there. Fix what hasn't. Some of what hasn't is not the fault of the unit. It's structural. Some of the quality of life issues on the post, connection to the rest of the staff, and we've been given an unconstrained approach for ideas of what to fix, and then we'll worry about the resources later. You all know resources, people, and money is the reality of life. So they're moving up. On the SHARP program, we will change the name. The Fusion Center concept of boost up prevention, which came out of this review as well. Boost up response. And we're developing a prevention model, quality of life issues, religious support, you name it. Also practice in the Army. Big customers with it, and of course, probably looking at a lot because you're bigger of the customers, trade office as well. And it'll be infused into the schoolhouse too, so you'll see this. Lots of momentum, it will change things. Same for suicide prevention. We briefed the Secretary the other day. 2 days ago, we had 221 regular Army suicides this year. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. That's an 18 more than this time last year. And on trajectory, unfortunately, to be the worst in 7 years, the last 7 years for regular Army suicide. Really want to get at it. I am not. Suicide is not an awful behavior, but there are conditions that lead to one doing it. Tackling that as well. We're going to see new regulations coming up. Here's the why. The regulation is not the solution for everything. But the last one was done in 2015. It was part of a health prevention regulation, not standalone. This one reg will be new, suicide prevention. It will include all the real progresses that have coming over the last 7 years, all in one document. And going to publish a PAM and handbooks for the different echelons of leaders as a way to help. And pulling in quality of life issues, marital issues, financial planning, those things that just might lead to someone making that decision. So we need your support with that. And anything else that comes up that impacts people as a priority, task force is taking on right now. It's a task force, it won't last forever. Actually, it's probably good that it does it once the programs get institutionalized across the Army. That's again, something that your commanders needs to know. Any comments related to that sort of region?
So other initiatives that kind of help support the PFTF, I'm sure most of you have heard of This Is My Squad. This is my squad sergeant major, happened to be my wife. Also, it is more than available out to come out to your installations to kind of to either assess what you're doing to implement better in your squad. And of course, when we talk about squads, we're not talking about the traditional MTO squad. We're talking about your squad as in the individuals you work with, you're responsible for within your organizations. This initiative is going to help, again, professionalize and get us back into the business of actually taking care of soldiers, learning and understanding how to build that cohesion within your organization, ensuring that individuals are fit, well trained, and able to do their jobs as a whole. Sometimes I think we make a misunderstanding of the value and how much work it took to get certain soldiers to even join the Army, and then the work that's required upon us as leaders in order to develop them, train them so that they can actually stay in the Army. Sometimes we assume they're just going to stay for 20 years and retire, but they haven't bought into the Army. That's our job to be able to do that. And the TIMS concept kind of helps shape that within your organization. And again, as we got away from that culture over the last 20 years, it's going to help us get back into that culture And these are things that help us fight the counterproductive behaviors that are existing within our squads and our soldiers.
Hey, team, and I am going to reserve time. I want to save the last 10 minutes for you. I'd like to get your thoughts as well. If not, I'll keep talking. I do want to clump together two more topics, and I don't know if this is part of the agenda early in the week or not. Multi-domain operations and rearm. Doug stayed on General stayed on DMPM, and his team are heavily involved. Here's the reason I bring it up. Mr. Porter, you live in this response, let me know. The multi-domain operations will be our new way of strategic way of fighting for the Army. It's already happening in some respects. There may be some changes at the margins because of changes in the globe right now, Afghanistan and other focuses. But our MDO concept is out there. It's going to work. It should. Tested with modernization, tested with force structure, tested with brigade transitions from IBCTs to SBCTs, schoolhouses, the whole bit. Clear integration and connection across Delta and PM, so we're part of it. The deal is not changing. Rearm is a new concept, and we're starting it this month, actually, in the nascent stages, moving to FOC. Is this part of the agenda, Marcus? I don't recall.
It was mentioned as an aspect of the topic.
Okay. Yeah, so that, and I won't go, and we can get it in other venues, and I know your respective units are talking to it as well. But in short, and Rick, please correct me if I'm wrong, but with the rearm concept, we have a modernization window, training window, and I think a manning. And roughly about 8 months per tied to a respective unit. Here's why I bring it up. It could change a week or two to the left. I'm going to make an example. This is just an example. Okay, so let's say 1st Brigade or 1st Cap Division. This is a rearm window. They've entered an 8-month cycle where they go through a modernization window of some type. Manning, going to get the new machine gun, the new whatever's going to be the option main fighting vehicle, whatever. I can't tell you when that 8 months will fall, but I can tell you that 8 months will touch the spring manning cycle and a winter manning cycle. Okay? So essentially, it's a out-of-cycle requirement in many respects for what we normally do today. I'm highlighting that. The flexibility that the HR world, the community is going to need. At the HRC level, or the Army level, Futures Command level, and your level. Because we're going to do it. Rearm is going to happen. A small example is up to G3 in our building. Planners and joint staff to lay the big matrix up so we see this and give a level of predictability for us. Not just us, planners, the whole thing. So I bring it up as an example of the agility, innovation, the thought that Army needs from us to make this work in the people's thing. I gave an example, let's say whatever the future tank is going to be. I know that tank is going to have certain skill sets, assigned crews, new mechanic that might not exist. We'll find out those folks tied to the accessions plan, and we as HR professionals will forecast that into the new system. So, probably should have bought this up front, but our current managing processes and HR management processes, even though 21st century focus, must be agile enough to adapt to meet these readiness requirements. That's my big ask of us, you, to help the commanders get through. It's already happened. I'm going to corner a friend and ask Mr. Rick Porter, what did I miss on that? Because I know you're living this in Fort Tom now.
We didn't rehearse this, so put them on the spot.
No, sir. Thanks for bringing up rearm because it's one of our top 3 priorities in ForceCom. And as you know, we got the ASRC next week going on in ForceCom, where rearm is going to be the major topic of discussion. Sir, so when commanders get the rearm 101 briefing about what it is, there's a couple of highlighted mention of the life cycle requirements. That applies for the rearm model, but it doesn't apply. So commanders associate life cycle with stabilization through the entire phase. And that's not what we're looking for. And that's where we need help in making sure commanders understand that, as General Brito said, we are going to focus on those MOSs that impact the modernization of the unit. If it's the IO infantry fighting vehicle, I mean, it's the MOSs related to that modernization equipment, and that's what we're going to try to stabilize. as far as we can through those modernization training and mission. So we're roughly talking about 18 to 20% of the BCT, not 4,000 folks stabilized, and then it's impacted by the assignment cycles, as you mentioned. Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Porter. And
Major General Doug Stitt and his team have a very good handle on this and nested well. The G3 team in Force Common as well. That's quite a small future challenge for the HR world. But again, something successful will be very much nested to the chiefs, the chairmen, and the secretary's vision. As an HR team, we're going to support it. Rick Porter mentioned the ASAR. In January, it's a tentative date, so I'll just wait till we put it out. But it'll be towards the end of January 22. We're going to have a supporting conference, Army People Conference, hosted down in Trade-Off Land. They want their installation, but we're going to run it. We're going to talk through how we envision supporting this model, not just rearm, but other aspects of what will be the future readiness of the Army necessary. Not any different than what you've seen before for those who have been in uniform for a couple of years. It's not our approach yet, but it is a model that our Army needs to take. It is a nexus between schoolhouse, succession, recruitment, retention, talent management, okay? That's my time. It's ends at 9:15. Go hours. Team, I did fail to mention something. I want to back up this tad that I thought when I talked to the People First Task Force. I did want to mention another aspect of it. That's it's over now. The Independent Review Commission directed for the Secretary, and it's a 90-day IRC Independent Review Commission. It ended a couple of months back, maybe a month and a half. Lots of recommendations out of this 90-day IRC. In the lane of accountability, climate and culture, some touch on sexual harassment, and quality of life type issues. I may be wrong on the topic, but 4 big things. Much of it did come out of, which was started going to it, but bigger for the Department of Defense. They've also been doing, and more to follow, some installation visits. Some of them actually trade out in force, but we've already had a couple. And in fact, this week we'll do an outreach on some of them. Now, the recommendations that came out of it, which will involve us a tad bit structural issues. Some will be directed to do, some will be directed to explore because they are very heavy in installation and the resources. Pick something simple about adding quality lights and mobile to provide safety amongst the soldiers. Different levels of accountability. You've seen the stuff that the legal folks do. CID restructure, going from independent review, tied to the IRC piece as well. I bring it up as for some context. Don't look in the rearview mirror, moving out. And this is probably second level on down. The services have some wiggle space in how they do it because services are structured. So a lot of this will be able to show this. So our approach, the staff level, sort of I apologize for taking stage time. But our approach at the staff level is to connect the IRC stuff with the PFT stuff when we put it out, so it's just once. Sharp restructure is a big piece of it. The structure of the program managers, the SARs, is a big deal. There may be some implications on the schoolhouse as well, all schoolhouses, straight out lane. That we'll keep next again. We're going to do a behind the pass, flip over to him, and turn it over to talk a little while.
You like that, sir?
Good, sir. Hey, too easy. A couple things I just want to share with you that are on the horizon that are going to be coming to your to the G1 S1 near you here in the future. So, one, some changes to the uniform policy. The AGSUs that the gentlemen are currently wearing, we made a couple decisions to make some changes. So, initially, when the guys came out, name tags were not authorized. So the leadership in the building has made a decision to authorize name tags to be worn on the AGSUs. However, they will not be the same name tag that was worn on the ASUs. So there is a I gotta have the inside all that. So they are working, there is an approved design, it kind of has a similar color as the AGSUs as a whole. Unfortunately, that's going to take probably about 9 months of production to happen, but you will see guidance come out here in the near future about the AGSUs, so I just want to make sure everybody doesn't go run and grab their black name tag from the ASUs and put them on there. There is specific guidance on what that name tag is going to look like. Of course, and then once they're eligible to be ordered, you can order them. For our female soldiers, they are in the works on the skirt for the AGSUs, a neck tab for the AGSUs, and then also the pumps for the AGSUs. So that is being worked by PEO soldiers that will be coming probably in the next 9 months as well. Third thing I want to talk about is revisions to AR 635-200. Which will definitely have some significant impacts with how we do business in the HRC family. So one, I'll start with some concerns that were brought up at Fort Bragg. When we came to visit, you were having concerns with individuals PCS into your organization, and as soon as they get there, they drop their retirement packet, and then, having anyone actually want to work, and you have to wait for that person to come off the books where you did it in person. So one of the things that will be in this revision is stabilization for 24 months at the station. So they will have to at least be there for 12 months before they will be able to drop their retirement and leave the organization. So your concerns were heard. The DMPM team worked is going to be in the provisions of 635-200. Another big change to be released in that is when you decline either CSL or an assignment, and then having 6 months to retire on the enlisted side. We're going to extend that to 12 months for multiple reasons. One, the meeting we used to have in the past to kind of force Sergeant Majors or deter Sergeant Majors from declining CSM, that need isn't there. We have plenty of Sergeant Majors to serve as CSMs. Only 6% last year declined to serve as a CSM. And those who declined wanted to serve as staff sergeant major. So we have an inventory to be able to do that. But also from a soldier perspective, those individuals, when they drop their retirement or they decline assignment, you have 6 months, that causes turbulence for Mr. Teolis and his team and the EMC because they're projecting 6 to 9 months out. So by that soldier having 12 months, that gives them a little time to work to get a replacement into that unit. And of course, use the G1s don't have to go with the gap of the soldier not being there because they were forced out of the Army after 6 months. And we're also changing the 19 and 6 to retire in lieu of to just over 19. So if they're over 19, they can retire in lieu of because they'll have 12 months to be able to retire. So I'll pause there if any questions about that. Go ahead.
Yes, everybody go get away. Come on now.
It wouldn't be.
Hey, good morning. Sergeant Engineer, Mr. Pat G-1 Sergeant Major, for those that don't know me. So I have a question in reference to the retirement process. Have we looked at an ETP to allow soldiers to submit regular retirement at 18 months? The reason I ask is because right now we're executing under SLA, which a lot of soldiers have at least 120 days leave. If you carry that into a next FY, that's 150 days leave. You add in permissive TY, now known as TAA, which is 20, 30 days of your OCONUS, plus 179 days of career skills. They're on leave before they're actually able to submit a retirement application, which defeats the purpose because they can't start any of the process and out process until that retirement is approved. So if you backward plan, we are hurting soldiers and prohibiting them to properly transition if they have a leave build up due to SLA. So if we looked at an ETP to allow them to submit at 18 months until SLA is exhausted in FY24, I think that would be better for the force overall.
I'm really glad you got that question.
So first and foremost, ETPs. You can submit an ETP for whatever you like. There's no rule on submitting an ETP. Now, whether or not they get approved or not, that's a different story. Because obviously, we would look at the circumstances of each situation to see if it warrants the actual ETP. But
overall general.
But then that would be a policy. We wouldn't get an ETP if we did it a blanket.
Policy or the interim.
Say again?
an ETP from the Army perspective or a policy overall? Because right now the AR says 12 months. If we did a blanket policy for 18 months until the SLA is exhausted versus individual cases.
So this is why the individual cases would matter. So when you talk about the concern being for leave, so, you know, max the person can carry over 120, you had different CUI things of that nature. If those individuals also can sell back up to 60 days of their leave as well, prior to separating from the Army. Now, if there are individuals who have 120 days plus leave, or some may have even more than that, that they carry over, you're talking about individuals who didn't have opportunity to take leave for like 5 years. People are probably going to question how 5 years went by and you didn't have an opportunity to take any leave. That's a hard sell in the building, and it has financial implications associated with it. That's why those can't get blanket ETP. They would have to be looked at individually on a case-by-case basis.
But not everybody can cash in the leave because remember, it's only 160 days throughout your entire career. And many soldiers, particularly enlisted soldiers, have already utilized cashing in that leave through re-enlistment. So they lost that opportunity to do it in conjunction with transition.
And those would be your individual ETPs.
We'll be in the Navy soon.
You got the Army Cyber Command Sergeant Major Robert.
So much revenue there. And the like more.
Showing things out.
The rest of it's under Seymour.
But Sergeant Major, I took that down.
No,
If I understand your issue correctly, we take Staff Sergeant Smith, who has 120 days now, SLA, what you're asking for, no, there's not a solution yet, but I took it out with the court. We call it an ETP that allows Staff Sergeant Smith to take his 120 days, plus whatever he gains next FY, plus his transition time and not be penalized, to be forced to be in a position to sell leave back. Is that the concern?
Yes, sir, and be able to take his CSP for 179 days as well.
Yeah. There's definitely not a solution yet, but I wrote it down in the book, was to take it back to some homework. And the response is sort of getting back to you as well. Obviously, it's being looked at, but fair point. And we do know how many, just by pulling a database, query how many are in that position. And it will be exhausted over time. This is another deployment, which you could have to do. But fair issue, I think we can take it on and just be aware.
Thank you, sir.
Looking at the clock, I'd like to recap very quickly and then get the rest of the report. By no mistake, trust me on this, I'm not just saying it because he's a chief, but people being number one priority, people being his philosophy, rightly so, and where the 21st century child management is going, all cohorts and all ranks and all components. Success of that engine, I'm very sincere about this team, success of that engine will rely on the AG Corps, AG professionals, and all that we do with the schoolhouse, your leadership in the field, your support to the command. And us, I'll improve my communications to the field, but it does stay invested with the staff. So our ask of you, be effective now and be better in the future. We are effective now. Be that technical expert, be that strategic thinker, help your commanders solve problems. Not everything's going to have a great answer, so you need to give a good example. Well-intended policy has caused some problems, especially in growing up. So, I have 100% faith in you, and you should have faith in yourself. I know we do. Keep the charge up, and we'll help our chief and our secretary move this big, massive wonder of ours to the next country. Any final comments?
You can close the mic and we'll take Q&A.
Hey team, I just want to again thank you for a fantastic time down here at Fort Jackson in the AG Week. Awesome opportunity to see the great minds come together, collaborating. I believe the Corps is definitely in good hands with Colonel Motley and Sergeant Major Atkinson. I think we should extend both of them a little longer in position.
He's not smiling.
I know magazines don't want to hear that. In all the information that you gathered here this week, please definitely take it back to your organizations, disseminate it, As you know, some of the feedback the boss gave earlier, we get feedback on the field on how we're doing as an HR community from the commanders and the command sergeant majors out there. And I'll say I get a lot more good news versus bad news. And obviously I want to make it all positive, but everyone notices the hard work that you're doing. It's very much appreciated. And now that we have the Army People strategy, you know, that basically explains to the Army how important it is that what we do as HR professionals, we have to take advantage of that opportunity to really show, you know, why we are a combat multiplier to all the leaders in the Army. So thank you for all that you do. It's truly appreciated, and defend and serve.
Last 10 minutes are yours.
Thanks, Clark. So, Sir Steve Aiken, Commander here at SSI. And up front, just thanks to you and Sergeant Clark. I think you being here makes us that much more powerful. 3 things that I wrote down in my notebook. So number 1, and I know you know where Marcus Motley is, but you know we're all in terms of IPSA and just driving the training. And I think just this helps us better set conditions as we do the full back dive into the goal line. So every HR professional, having had the 40-hour HR pro, driving and refining the institutional training, just lets us do all those things better. Had a question, sir, and I think you may be familiar, and certainly I work for TRADOC, so definitely no intent to be cross purposes with General Clark and me, but there's discussion that I think you may be a part of here in the near future about a soldier center of excellence in TRADOC. And I think as I read that conceptually, you know, that's going to be kind of all domains of the soldier that we're trying to encompass. I don't know if you have any thoughts. I mean, I could see where potentially we could get at cross purposes with a AG school that works for TASCOM as part of the Sustainment Center of Excellence, staying sync with Soldier Center of Excellence at TRADOC. But I know we'll work through that. I didn't know if you had any thoughts there. And then I guess the last thing, from a commander perspective on People First initiative. And I heard the secretary get asked a question during the TRADOC Commander Forum. And I thought her response was spot on. She was asked about People First initiatives, and she said, I know there's a lot of them. I know they're all good. I think we need to look at which ones are most effective and get down to those. And because I've kind of had that concern as a commander too. We've done a lot of things and we've done them for good reason. But I think we need to get down to those that are most effective, make sure that everybody is kind of synced and where we're trying to go and what we're trying to do. And I think General Ramey was one of the leaders who really summed it up best if it's through the lens of the profession. This is my squad, kind of netting it down to that, and you talk it that way, then people hear it and listen to it. So those are mine. So
Those are 3 PhD questions, but I'll try. First of all, on your first comment, I concur with you. I have 100% faith and confidence in what we're doing to support all the WPF and support the headquarters initiatives, so no concern whatsoever. On the Soldier Center of Excellence, yes, I'm familiar with the concept. I personally talked to General Clark on it. It's an idea and the concept to consolidate, kind of tied to your second point, blooming flowers everywhere underneath the command one that might have the resources. And some in the command, some push to the command to leverage the power of a 4-star command. A way to do it. And then nest training and leadership development, which already happens in that command. There are some things that are not established yet that can support the soldier center of excellence, but having command of the center of excellence with the initiatives and resources behind it to push things, stay with intent, there's definitely some valid issues there. There's some things that the headquarters will have to realign if this comes to fruition. So some of the ideas and the concepts that the first task force is doing now, those are cool. But there has to be a level of maturity to the SHARP program, to the suicide program, to the religious programs, and spiritual health, and the chaplain program. So this would not happen quick. And part of the conceptual idea, if supported by ASL, which I'm not going to get ahead of, I don't know. You have a deliberate plan and just make illustration, make it up in 10 months, IOC, 18 months, FOC, and resources aligned if necessary. Complicated part, more than you wanted to know probably, the palm cycle, the TAA cycle, it has to be necessary to this. Palm TAA, wait, no way. And they're on their timeline. So yes, that lots of merit to it, but the right folks to look at to say, yes, this will work, this piece of polish here, this won't. We should go to that concept and the ASL have to make the decision. Great. On the blooming initiative, 5 words. Part of the work we're doing in G1 is programming. You told us to do these 10 things, you told us to do these 15, and we have inventory of what's producing results, what's resource and what's not, and then come back and say, we had 25, here's 5 that work better. To get to the intent of putting people concur and have a better common operating picture of the bandwidth down to the units that are full to execute these things. I can very much appreciate the need of Frago. Take this survey, do tomorrow, do these programs. It's tough. So it's neck it down to get at the commander's intent. Is to be the secretary and the chief. And both the comments obviously were spot on, and he was upstream. I think I'm almost over 1 minute, but I'm going to turn the floor back over to the team. Well, the poster child moving up here. Looks good, you know. Hey, from the floor, so you sit back. Any thoughts or comments? I know you live this life. Not okay. There's all yours.
Thanks, sir. Thanks for coming. I made my comments yesterday, so we have more time. Any questions? Online too, from the chat room. We have the Army G-1 here, all the way from the Pentagon.
I got it.
Army.
I see them all the time.
All right, sir. So you obviously, former commander within the new organizations, you understand, how busy at echelon, excellence and G1 are. From your foxhole now as the Army G1, I would ask you can assist us in messaging to those commanders the importance of protecting the time that the G1s attempt to establish at their installations when it comes to attempting to become experts. While at the same time, those intangible things that we have to do as HR leaders in formations also take a priority. Because if you're not taking care of those 8 to 9, troopers that you have in your organization, we're not going to be able to do T3 training. We're not going to be able to become experts in what we need to become, right? Because we're escorting and doing all those other things. While at the same time, everyone in the organization fights, right? So we have those other things that we have to be experts at also. So yes, I know, commanders want us to be experts in all those HR things. They also want a fighting force that knows how to lead S1 or whatever the staff section is. But again, if you could, kind of assist us with that, with the commanders that you talk to, that would help us out. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, man, just 100% agree with you. Right, I've seen it from both sides of the fence now. I will try to help that message. Maintain your readiness, take care of yourself, train your team. The visual you bring in mind, this shop is closed from 13 to 16. All right, might be okay to get you training now, but I like to see if what they have. I'll assist. Team, thank you very much. Really enjoyed the time, and I, future's bright. I'm still looking at it. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for your time and your presence here.
I'm too short.
Make sure you get your right name down. Sure.
Question on the senior NCO and the budget.
No, I
I'm gonna fucking be in it, right? You're gonna know me.
A lot closer, please. Maybe we can have a second row, maybe the shorter individuals in the front.
vertically challenged, we're not sure.
Okay.
Get within the screen.
I gotta get one.
Get within the screen. Get close. Get within the screen, please. Come on in. I'm good.
It's amazing how hard it's done.
Please.
Everybody smile on their mask.
And to serve on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, sir.